I'll be talking about academic industrial government complex, the paucity of research products in developing nations in Africa, essentially. So when you talk about innovation, essentially, we look up to three bodies: the academia, the industry, and then the government. That is not to say that innovation cannot happen outside this complex, outside this academic industrial government complex. Innovation can happen anywhere, but it has been it's a customary duty that we look up to the industries, the academics, and then the government in, anytime we want something good, anytime we want innovation. These are the bodies we look up to. But innovation can happen anywhere, just like I said. So let's start with the academic institutions. The academic institutions primarily are tasked with research, community service, and then teaching. And these functions collectively involve you conceptualizing ideas, testing hypotheses, translating your ideas into tangible products, follow the process of research method. I've discussed research method before, so that's the way it works. And then we talk about the industry. The industry, on the other hand, is saddled with the responsibility of developing your prototypes or your IND, as the case may be, scaling up your prototypes or IND and then mass producing them. That's the primary duty or duties of what? The industry. And then we talk about the government. The government is, tasked with the responsibility of providing the enabling environment, policies, infrastructure, that will foster a seamless relationship between the academia and then the industry. But over time, you realize that this synergy is largely missing. There has been continuous blame games. Continuous blame game. The academics accuse the government of neglect, poor research funding. Then the government, on the other hand, will counter, saying that you don't do research that directly have impacts, on the society. Now, who are we to blame? The academic, the industry, or the government? We must go beyond this pro and anti-dialectic. And for us to do that, we need to adopt what we call systems approach. A systems approach that will view these three components as an integral part of a single innovation ecosystem. Yes. So let's look at it. Why do we devote, more time in formatting articles for Q1, Q2 journals, publications that often cost fortune, than engaging in practical research work that addresses immediate societal problems? Why? Maybe because we are string tied to an institution. Look, I've traversed the academia for the greater part of a decade. And what I observe is that academics are now more concerned about formatting articles, more concerned about publication just to be promoted. They want to rise within the academic hierarchy just to be promoted. But at the end of the day, after the promotion, what next? Even if you get to the rank of a professor, what is your salary? A professor in Nigeria earns less than $500. That's the reality. And that is one of the reasons, one of the, the ways that the academics are using to blame the government for remuneration, for funding. How can a professor, after spending, this length of time studying, doing research in the university, and then coming to train people that would, train other people, be given less than $500 in a month with all the responsibilities around him? But again, you may ask yourself, what are those research or pieces of research these professors are doing? What has been the impact in the society, right? You may ask that question. When you talk about prototypes and then investigational new drugs, engineers have more prototypes or engineering because there's something we call the first principles. First principles thinking form the core of every design, every innovation, every calculation in engineering. So you see them having more prototypes. Maybe that first principles was actually, a conception of Isaac Newton in 1687 in his book titled Principles of Natural Philosophy. It all centers on reductionism, that if you want to study a complex system, you first break it down into different parts, study the part differently, and then you can couple it back. So by so doing, you know that if you pick up a part or you take out a part, you can replace it with another thing that will give you another product. So they have more prototypes. I can agree with an engineer that the government is not scaling up their products. The government is not providing the enabling environment for mass production, scaling up, or development of their prototype. But let's look at the health science. Like, what are we doing? We have so many publications, but no products, no investigation, and new drugs. Why? Why? If our concern is about teaching, but we should be afraid of that because the way things are going, we may soon be replaced by robots because robots can be infused with a lot of information, and it can stand before a student, and student can perturb it to get any result, any answer, anything they want from a robot. So if our duty is skewed towards just teaching, then we should be afraid because with time, we would easily be replaced. I think we should be focusing more on developing novel ideas, on testing our hypotheses, on, translating our ideas into tangible products. However imperfect it is, let us begin to use it within our family, within the society, at least before calling on the government for mass production. Yes, as an academic, do you have such a product? That this is a product I have developed from my research and I'm now using it to treat these people. At least for the uptime time, it is what I'm using in my immediate community. If it pleases the government to come, then the government can come and take over the scaling up. At least when we do that, we will have something that we can sell to anybody. From the small, production, we can begin to sell it to the community. I know in pharmacy, there's something called extemporaneous preparation. And extemporaneous preparation does not need any label. It is what you give to somebody, believing that this thing will solve the problem. Maybe we can begin to, dish out our extemporaneous product for immediate benefit, immediate community benefit. Because I have seen a disconnect, among this group. The blame game is too much. But should we blame the government? Yes, for not providing, research funding, for not providing infrastructure. We can blame the government. And what is the reason? All right, let's leave that. Can we blame the academics too for not doing research that will have societal impact, real societal impact? Yes. So you see that the blame is not just on one side. The blame cut across all these groups, all these bodies in this complex. It is time, I think, we begin to rethink our priority into research that we can translate into tangible products instead of doing research that will just end up on the shelf, will just end up being cited. It is time we begin to translate our research into money. It is time we begin to look at the entrepreneurial aspect of research. That is the way I see it. Because if we continue like this, then we will lose respect. We're already losing respect. You remember I think in 1963, when John F. Kennedy was giving a speech after winning his presidential election, he told the people that the conundrum of politics is that he was voted by multitude of people, but when he wanted an advice, he will go to, the academia or go to the academia for advice because they are respected as what? Disinterested, objective third party. They are regarded as the think tank. But today, instead of us giving advice to the government, to the politicians, they are the one, directing us on what to do. So this is the reverse we need to reverse. This is something we need to reverse. And we can do that by respecting ourselves, by adopting research with, real societal impacts. I think by so doing, our glory as academics will be regained one day. Thank you.